Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Hi to everyone.
There is camera.
So hi, welcome to today's webinar. I have a big team of experts here for recording and settings and streamings and everything. So I think it will be an interesting topic today. And of course, you're more than welcome to ask questions. So at the end or in between. Okay, so we will start. And if you have any questions, raise a hand or just unmute and ask. So no problem. So let's start.
So Simon, microphone is.
We are also, as you know, recording all of the webinars. So just to let you know that you're recorded. Hello, Vinika. Okay, let's start. So me and Rook will probably tell you today the most about camera and video settings. We have in the past couple of events, judo events, we noticed that there can be some improvements, and with very little effort, you can do a lot of things to improve outlook of the event. Shortly about agenda. So we will just let you know what is the input and output setting, like what is the format for input and output for the encoding for the FairReplay. We will explain to you what is actually interlaced with picture. We will let you know about the SMPTE standard, about 1.5, 3 gigabit. So this is like 3G, 6G, and so on. We will shortly tell you what is the time code and when it's used. We will let you know about the protocols such as HDMI, SDI, NDI, RTMP, and SRT. All of them have some pros and cons. We will try to explain to you what are those. We will also let you know that you can improve sound with cardioid microphone. I think I spelled this wrong. Rob will maybe correct me. And it's very important for some events not to hear the referees or coaches in the back. Then we will go to camera settings, how to improve the picture with the shutter speed, aperture, ISO, or gain. We will let you know what white balance is. We will then move on to global and rolling shutter. It's not that widely used term, but it's very good for you to know. Here I made a duplicate, but ISO and gain, this is the same thing. And then we will just shortly go to the tripod. So how can you level the image, so level the camera, and actually what kind of head for the tripod to get better movement when you will move the cameras. So if we move on now, here you can see that the FairReplay has two important drop downs over here, and both of them are format and the encoding config. So the format is something what goes in the comes in the capture card, or for example, how the web camera is set, and the encoding config is what is written to the file. Later, you will see for the bit rates of the SDI video, and when you compare that the format is something that it's 3 gigabits per second, and encoding format, it's maybe 3 megabits per second, it's 1,000 times less. And what is the key takeaway here? That if you go to view encoding settings in the FairReplay in the recorder, you can set, I don't know if you can see well, but here the most important thing is that you need to set the bit rate. You need to set the video codec, and you need to set the recording format. And why it's recording format used? Yeah, you can do, for example, upscaling or downscaling, or just do the interlacing. So the main thing here is that you have some format that is your input format, and encoding that it's output, that it's written to file in this case. It can be also sent by internet or network, and this is then called streaming. So we mentioned the bitrate. What is bitrate? Bitrate is actually how many bits are sent per second, and this is the rate, so second. And bitrate is the same for the video or, for example, for the network speed. You will there are a couple of terms how bitrate is then determined. Most of the time you will hear that it's either CBR, so constant bitrate. So once you start to record, it will be very flat line of the bitrate. And you will also have the variable bitrate. What this means that if the video will be more static, bitrate will be lower. And this is good if you have a lot of static images, like this presentation, for example. If you would go to Task Manager, you would see that the bitrate is lower when nothing is moving. On the left, there is the variable bitrate, and you can see that the colors, red, green, and blue, are moving up and down. And this could kind of indicate that the bitrate is variable. Okay, what is actually bitrate? Why it's so important? Because with lower the bitrate, you have lower quality of the video when it's recorded. And then, of course, if it's lower bitrate, then you can use better codecs, like you will see in the next slide. And better codecs means that better quality with lower bitrate. So codecs and encoders. Why is this so important? Because when you will see a bit older hardware or even newer hardware, but they're also using older codecs, they are very optimized to work in the CPU. So this means that with MPEG-2, you can encode maybe 10, 20 videos with CPU. If you go down the line with the age, so newer codec means that with the same bitrate, you can do with the half of the bitrate, you can get the similar quality like you had before. So MPEG-4 with the same bitrate means it can have double the quality. With the half the bitrate, it means to have the same quality. And on the right side, you have different styles of encoders. And encoder, if it's with CPU, CPU is very general purpose unit in computer, and it can do million of different things. And one of those can be encoding, but encoding does not mean to be very fast, but it can do it. If you move on, you can see that now with the GPUs, the newer GPUs, or even 5-year-old GPU, you have NVIDIA is very strong in this field. You have NVIDIA encoder. It's hardware encoder built in a graphic card. QuickSync is from Intel graphic cards. AMF is AMD Media Foundation or framework, and it's from AMD. And what this means is that you can encode videos and do not do anything to the CPU. And then, of course, if you go one level higher, you have the dedicated encoders. And these are usually very small boxes, like you can see here. This is from Haivision. Makito is the model. Or you can buy the special cards that can do up to 64 full HD videos to H.264. And the price for these ones can be like 2,000 euros. This one is 8,000 euros. So usually with the dedicated encoders, you get higher quality, for example, in the higher temperatures. So these are purposely built to withstand all sorts of humidity, dust, these sort of things. And this one is for high density encoders. So for example, if you have like a network television, when you move the channels, you can have, 100 channels. So for 100 channels, you basically only need 3 of these cards. So this is called, it needs, I think, 1 watt per encoding. And then we go to SDI. SDI is quite important thing because it's mostly used for the broadcast, or even you are using a lot in the venue, in the arena. And it's very old. It's actually very old It's very old standard. What this means that it had some new things that were introduced, and one of the most important thing is the speed. And if you will see here, it's from 1989. I was born in that day, so since then it was 270 megabits per second. So this is now maybe one web camera is doing this sort of bit rate, but it can go up to 4K or 8K now even. Why this is important? For you, it's very important to know that the signal, it's only one direction and it goes from point A to point B. So usually camera to video matrix or camera to capture card directly. And what is important in this one, that in the capture card, you will get 3 gigabits per second if you're doing 1080p 60 video. And why this is important? Yeah, it's important for you to know that if something goes wrong, if you don't have enough bandwidth, the video will look like you're losing the signal or some other artifacts. Other thing is that, usually in computer or in computer, usually we do the RGB colors, red, green, and blue. But in the SDI or video in general, they are also using the YCBCR color space. And on the right side, you can see how this actually looks like. So you don't have RGB layers, but you have one grayscale image and two with two colors that I don't know how to name in English, and two with others. And when you overlay all of those together, you get this sort of picture. And over here, it's important that it's 4:2. Yeah, it's not ratio, but it's bits per layer, to simplify. Also, SDI, it's important to know that it can go up to 60-meter distance if it's 2.5 millimeter cable in diameter. So you can buy better cables, but you will get a bit heavier. It will get heavier, but this is more like for installations, and then it can go to 100 meters. And over here, just this, to know this is called BNC connector. So this is not specific to SDI. This is used in radio equipment for all sorts of things, but SDI usually comes with the BNC cables. Blackmagic, for example, has DIN 59 or something like that, standard. So interlaced video. Why interlaced video actually exists? For the TV stations to transmit the more fluid motion, they try to put 50 frames per second in the same bit rate. And they did this to, it's not very well visible here, I guess, but I don't know if I can magnify. Is it bigger or no? Yeah. Now it is. So over here you can, now I'm very bad with this, like this. I cannot use the laser now. So over here you can see that there are the lines, and how the lines works are that you have every other line is sent on every other frame. So for example, frame number 1 sends all the odd lines, and the next sends all the even lines. And with this on the TV at home, you were able then to see 50 frames per second with the same bandwidth. I don't know what was the bandwidth. Maybe Rob knows. Rob doesn't know. Imagine that satellites were really expensive. So the way how you send the image from point A to point B in the television, you need a satellite network, and satellite network is really, really, really expensive. And they were using the same codecs, but they wanted to send 50 frames with the 4 megabits, for example.
The frequency. For that, from the start, it was the picture was transmitted by the frequency and over the air by a radio frequency. And radio frequency has some limitation in the bandwidth.
Okay, so it was the bandwidth limitation, so they wanted to just send more, and they couldn't make a new codec course. It's also important to know that you have that 1080 interlace is the same bandwidth like 720p. And
Okay, so bandwidth.
yeah, for the bandwidth, of course. And the next thing is that it's possible to use the interlace filters. And when you set the interlace in the FairReplay, for example, more compute power is needed. So usually we work with a graphic card to the interlace. But if you would have 8 inputs and you need to interlace 8 inputs from 1080 interlace 50 to P50, then it will take more processing power. And this can mean that you cannot then use all 5. Rob will draw something now, looks like.
No, later.
Later. And why are we talking about the interlace? Mostly because all of the broadcast equipment used in the venues for the in the arenas is for 1080 interlace 50. And to move on, it would be really expensive. So in International Judo Federation, most of the events are in 1080 I-15. So we need to take care of this. Just a brief introduction to timecode. Timecode is something that we can work with like multicam production. FairReplay can use this, but this is really expensive. If you will see here, this is the picture of the camera, and camera actually has the timecode in like SDI. And as you can imagine, you have these small handheld camcorders. None of those is using the timecode. And what is timecode? It actually identifies each frame in video. So if you have video that's 12 hours long, we can see this timecode that at 10th hour, 12 minute, 13 seconds. And if we call this 500 milliseconds, in 500 milliseconds, it can be that this is the 10th frame in 13 seconds. Sometimes the time code can be set to be wall clock time. Usually for the events that are 3, 4, 5 hours, they just start the time code generation at the beginning of the event, and at the end it goes to 3, 4 hours. So this is how they capture all of the video footage. And then in the post-production, then they can align for all of the cameras to actually see the same exact moment. But in order this to be okay, you need at least sync generator and a timecode generator. And these are quite expensive things. And you need to clock all of the cameras to the same clock generator. And it is just like very expensive. Another bad thing for this is that the high frame rate is supported, but not very well. When we were implementing 100 frames per second camera, it was not that easy. So instead of this, we found other solutions, how we can have multiple cameras sync to quite the same time. It goes up plus and minus 10 milliseconds. So this is half of the frame. We can now just talk shortly about the HDMI, SDI, NDI, RTMP, and SRT. What is HDMI? HDMI, everybody knows. It's the way how you can either connect the display to the monitor. It's built for the short distance. If you will ever see the cable, if you will cut in half, you will see that there are a lot of cables. And you can extend this, but it's very expensive. And there are some HDMI cables that then convert to fiber optic. But in general, HDMI is used to few meters. SDI, on the other hand, like we explained before, it's meant for up to 100 meters and can be trimmed by hand. What this means that you can make your own sizes, but it's sometimes really hard to find good quality cables like Canare and then good connectors like Neuklick. NDI, on the other hand, it's meant to transmit the video signal over the network. It has two modes. It's very important for you to know. One, it's the high bit rate, and it uses around 200 megabits per second for 1080p 50, or it can do NDI HX, and this is just H.264 encoded video. And all of these three are meant to be low latency for inside the venue, like inside venue transmission of video signal. On the other hand, you have two other ways how to transmit video. There are multiple more, but let's focus on these two: RTMP and SRT. They both go in similar direction. So RTMP, if you ever stream to YouTube, you will see that they are using RTMP. And this is older streaming protocol, and it has bad error correction. It's 1 second latency. Let's say it's 1 second. And the worst thing is that it doesn't really correct errors that much. And the newer standard or newer protocol, it's SRT. And it can do latency as low as 125 milliseconds, and it has very, very good error correction. There are other protocols such as Zixi, but to use Zixi, you need quite expensive equipment. So SRT is open source, everybody can use, and actually whoever is now streaming to MOOCs, we will soon enable SRT streams to MOOCs, and this will improve quality of the streams. So if we now move from the how video is transmitted to the way how video is captured, we will now go to shutter speed. Shutter speed, in very simple terms, means that how much time is captured in image. On the right side, it's in Photoshop, this, but doesn't matter. This one, you can see it's much more blurry over here. And this means that it captured more time in one frame. Usually, if you're from Europe and other countries that use PAL standard, you will see that if you have 50 frames per second, the minimum shutter speed is 1/50, and this actually translates to 20 milliseconds. So when you would see if you would go frame by frame, it would actually mean that each frame has 20 milliseconds of movement in it. Slower shutter, so if it's 1/50, means that the video is more fluid. But if the shutter is faster, 1/250 plus, it means that it will be more accurate. It will look more like this. So you see that the legs and everything, it's more static. It's sharper. But here it says that it's referee versus beauty. So most of the time for the referee replays, we try to use faster shutter, but then someone tells us, "Oh, this is too much. Let's make it slower." And for sport like judo, we recommend at least 1/250 plus. And here it's the aperture, and this is so I just go back a little faster. The shutter speed, it's not only that it will be more visible, but also you will get less light inside the sensor because the shutter will be open for less time. And the same is for the aperture. Bigger the opening, so this is called with we usually mark this with F, more light will go in. But more light goes in, more blurry is the background. So for example, imagine in judo, you want that the whole tatami is visible. I know it's not tatami, but you can imagine you need aperture of 5.6. If you would have 1.4, the background, or if the cameraman is losing focus, the judokas wouldn't be visible. Judoka, because it's plural. And then, for example, you set the shutter speed correctly, so it's 1/250, and the aperture is 5.6, but the image becomes dark. And you can actually do artificial, you can artificially add light with gain. And gain is usually measured in the decibels. And we do recommend to have 0 gain. But if you want to have a good picture, to be very clear picture, just add gain. But the artifact, I don't know if you can see here, I will zoom again. The artifact is then that the picture becomes grainy. So at the end of the day, you will see that you need to mix and match settings to get the correct picture. The next thing is white balance. On the right side, you see that we took a picture of one event before and after. And what is actually white balance? This is actually part of the color balancing, and the white balance specifically is that the white is actually white. You can see that here it's white and here it's a bit reddish. And this is the 2 hours of difference. So it was nothing with sun or whatsoever. And they just actually pressed auto white balance. Later in demo, we will of course show you this. White balance usually has 2 settings or 2 options how to set the white balance. One is with the Kelvin color. Lower the Kelvins, more blue is the white balance, I believe. If it's not like this, it's other way around. And other way is that you can set a preset in camera. Usually you will see that white balance can be set to cloudy or these lights in offices, And when you set this, it will set the correct Kelvin temperature and you will get the nice white color. And what is actually goal of white balance? The goal is simply to have the correct white and to have all of the cameras in the same, that the yellow is actually the same yellow in all 8 feet. And of course, in judo venue, usually all cameras will have the same white balance setting. So if we go now to the next one, how the tripod is, how important is the tripod? Tripods are usually in the 2 groups. One is the tripod for the video and tripod for the photography. Video tripods, you can have even for 100 and more. All have, of course, this little thing. It's the analog way how you level the tripod. And they also have fluid head, Y fluid head. If you will see some videos from the competitions, you will see that once the camera operator moves the camera, it will jump. And this is usually the sign that he's using the non-fluid head. This actually means that in the head of the camera, I don't know why I didn't put any picture. Can you put a picture of the tripod? But I don't know how can I then show Siri. Rock will just show the. Just give me a second. Situated. Just one more second. Okay, here you can see the picture of the tripod. And top of the tripod where we have this handle, it's called actually the head. This is top right image. And the head of the tripod can have the fluid inside. Fluid inside the head means that when you will move from left to right, it will be much, much more fluid. You also have this option that the cameras can have image stabilization. And if they do have, try to enable it. you will lose a couple of degrees of the vision, but when you will sometimes the floor, when people walk next to cameras, the floor is shaking. If you would have image stabilization, it would counter the movement and it would make the image very stable. One other good thing is that you can centralize the camera center. So what this means, if you move the camera too much in front on the shoe, I think it's called the shoe, the tripod will start to move forward. And after 1 minute, the camera will look in the floor. But if you would center this, it would stay in the horizon. And yeah. So yeah, this is the tripod. And the global versus rolling shutter, majority of the cameras are rolling shutter. And it's the way how photo sensor captures an image. Here, today we took a picture of the sensor in one Blackmagic camera. And usually it starts to capture with the top left pixel and it continues to the right and then goes to the next one and so on and so forth. And it goes from top to bottom. And the result of this is, if I zoom in this picture on the left side, you have the rolling shutter and you will see that the fan, you will later also see in demo, it's a bit warped. Whereas on the right, it's very clear. And there are cameras mostly for the industry imaging that have the global shutter, but we will also present you one camera that has the global shutter for sport. So the main thing here is that you would see in judo movement of the judoka in a very clear way and not warped in any direction. Other thing in the equipment is the sound. Most of the cameras, the camcorders, have the omnidirectional way how they pick up the sound. And omnidirectional is this one. It goes all around 360. Most of the camera even have 5.1 sound. So this is exactly what is then captured all around the cameras. But you have other way of other options. And you can see here it's I don't know how to cardioid microphone that it just captures the front, but you also have the shotgun sort of microphone, and this captures a bit from back and side, but mostly directional in front. And with a good, usually I think Japan is one of the best events if you will ever try to analyze how they have the sound in the venue. You will really hear what's happening on the mat. And it's very cheap improvement that you can have. It's only 30 euros per microphone. Here it's Boya. It's one company of like very affordable equipment. And the other was the Rode. And we can now just go on shortly to the demonstration. And first, what we will show to you. Yeah. Over here, we have the recorder because we will capture some of the videos. And here we have two cameras available with the NDI network. So it's the first and the second. And if you see here, both are set a bit wrong, the way how image looks like. You see that this one is a bit, one is the bottom right is white, so it's quite correct, and the bottom in the top left is wrong. I will now go to the settings, and one person will move there to hold the paper. You will see a bit of moving in the office. So now today is holding the. Okay. today is now holding the paper, and we have two cameras here. And you can see that usually the white paper is something that white balance can be set on using the one push. I will now click on both. I clicked one push, and you can see now that the gray looks correct now. With this, it's like magician. Now the picture looks correct.
The only difference is, of course, the shutter speed and the brightness of the picture.
Like Brooke mentioned, if we go now here, I will now put to the full screen. I think it's going to be the easiest, and I will just make the one snipping. So I will now just get one frame. And as you can see, the fan is moving so fast that shutter speed of 1/100 can not capture at all what's going on here. I will also show in the viewer. But now if I will set the exposure to like 3500, and I will set the gain, you will see over here. I will also lower the iris. Okay. If I now go back to preview and make now the picture, you will see that suddenly we can see the blades of the fan. And this is actually the setting of the shutter speed. And because we set the shutter speed, we had to put up gain and lower the iris. So iris, it's like aperture. We also set the white balance. And now I will just go to the viewer. And here, over here, I will also just start to record all three. And I will And here now we have two cameras. I go frame by frame, and you can see if I move to this one, how the blade over here, it's actually working. You can see, or even this one is maybe even better. Rob got one idea. If we go even here now, amazing. You can see that even though the shutter speed on this one is set to a bit lower, so it's 1/200, the ball is still quite visible the way how it's moving. And now I will go to the other demonstration, and now we will show you the difference between 240 frames per second together with the global shutter. I have too much of programs opened. Like this. I will open, and I will start to record. And now this video is, again, Rook is going there. Thank you. And like this, you can see the comparison between, just move here. We can see comparison between here, global shutter on the left side, and the fan blades are actually warped, and they're not really
correct degrees.
Yeah, correct degrees between. And also 240 frames per. It's, thank you, Anya. It's 120 degrees of difference between the blades, like here and here. They're not 120 degrees. And if we go frame by frame, you will see that I will now follow this blade. I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, around 12 frames to go all around. And this camera, that's 50 frames per second. I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I know what is the problem. We, you know, Robbie destroyed me. But I Rock is now leaving the office. Thank you. So what happened here is that the fan is moving around so fast that it's actually doing 380 degrees, for example. And this is then the, if you ever saw the on YouTube, I will then later show on the we will share. If you will ever see the blade moving backwards, and this is exactly what happened. And this did get me confused a bit, I need to admit. So what happened here is that the shutter speed is set to very high, to 1/2000, I believe. But when we move frame, it actually moves 360 frames around, degrees around. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's it actually from demo. So now usually Anya asks if there are any questions.
So Anya, can you please ask them if they have any questions?
Yeah, so I have to ask you this question, but really seriously. Are there any questions about these settings in the recorder? Because now you have a chance to ask whatever you want to know about these specific settings. So if we open a recorder, okay. We do this one, and then I'm sure you will have some
Okay,
questions.
Anya, you ask. Thank you, Anya, for asking. Okay, so I just want to show you what is wrong with this video. So normally, we often see some kind of those videos in the competition. And the case is that the man who was doing recording, he made two mistakes. One mistake was, of course, white balance, and another mistake was the level of the image. Like Simon explained in the presentation, it's very I will not say important, but because the stream will be in each way, but it's important in the way of archiving and any other highlights, yes, that we do the preparation of the camera as best as we should do, because if we get that kind of the picture, all archive will be corrupted. And imagine that we are doing some highlights from them, so the picture will be jumping from left to right, up and down if you are mixing via camera. So instead of having that kind of the picture, it's better to have, like I will show you in Western way. I hope that I will find, I know what is wrong, that I will find the filters. Just give me the second. I will immediately show what is opposite side of this video. So instead of having that kind of the picture, sorry for that, but it's quite astonishing. Okay, to have like that one. So now, okay, it's hard to see, but it's not in the, it's in the level, it has correct white balance, and so on. So try to do it as best as you could, I want to say.
And really to have all of the cameras set to the same settings, then when people would move from Mat1 to Mat2, they would have the same experience.
Correct, yes.
And also here in IGF events, you can see they have always professional tripods. You can see really good movement of the video, the camera.
But like we said in agenda, there are a couple of important things and couple of things with which you can play it on the events. For instance, most important are the cables. because if in the cables is some problem, then you will have the problem in all the chain. The chain, I mean, for the recording, for the, if you use FairReplay, for the viewers, of course, on the streaming, everything will be, there will be the problems in all chain. But then you can play with white balance and other, like Simon said, shutter speed, aperture, and all other camera settings.
Okay, so now you have any questions about how to set the recorder or maybe how to set a viewer? You know,
Or any other things.
or any other yeah, in connection with this.
And Nico is searching in his head.
Well, thank you for this very detailed, but so far
Just Nico, just
a sec.
sorry, because we messed some settings here in our case. Give us some.
It's 10 minutes.
Come on, guys. You can ask.
maybe it's not a question. Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for all these details, but so far I thought that I am understanding something, but after this I am not understanding anything.
The webinars are built that we try to tell you something, but of course it's also something that you must search after the webinars in Google.
I was like joking. Really, these are very good details, but I think from my experience, the person who use this really has to understand more details, because otherwise we are just like users. But even like that, I think what is helpful to have like a checklist with the most important settings, so you don't miss anything.
Anya is really good in making the checklist. So now Rock will try to show her me on the picture still. So Anya can do the checklist, how to set the white balance you use for the indoor, shutter speed of 250, aperture of 9.6. But some of the cheap cameras don't offer all of the options. But yeah, I totally agree. If you would have just click all of the same, then this will make event much.
But normally, even cameras for, I don't know, 500 euros, they are capable to do mostly the white balance, of course, and the shutter and aperture. At least the shutter and white balance. No? So we are playing a little bit with low consumer cameras, and all of them, they have at least shutter, and the best is to point out something about 200 part of the seconds, and that's the most thing. And of course, like we said a couple of times, white balance will make miracles. And that picture is not black, but this is the other things. Mostly white balance.
Thank you.
Anya, any question?
Anya know everything.
David asked why this
webinar started 1 hour earlier. Is it the daylight saving time?
Yes, sorry, in our country, yes.
In most of the Europe, yes.
I didn't even figure it out because it's 6 here.
We didn't communicate with UTC time or Zulu time or Greenwich time, whenever you want to say.
But I think that's it, huh?
I think that we tell briefly, but it was a lot of data. I think a lot of things that, like Nico said, you must Google it further. But mostly we want to point out that it's not only put the cables on the table and start the recordings, but you must do a lot of other things, or there are a lot of things minor things when you can where you can have a lot of benefits in the picture that I want to
For settings, that's it.
Yeah.
I hope that we will actually make a workshop soon, that we will see each other in person to actually go through everything hands-on, because now it's really difficult just with a PowerPoint and the Teams. It's very difficult to share the information.
So next week we'll have a little bit different webinar.
Yeah.
It will be questions and answers. So for the next week, hi, I'm here. So for the next week, we would like you can prepare some questions. We would really like to answer you questions about any of these programs or about how the program works or any of the details about JudoManager, FairReplay system, cutting, uploading, you know, how it is shown online, and you know, any of these questions that are that concern any part of the system, so that we can, you know, really go through all these questions, and then we will make a break for 1 month because we think that we covered most of the basic topics. So for the next week, you know, please check everything, prepare questions. You can show them, you can send them in advance, or you can just ask them on the webinar. So this will be like an opportunity to really, you know, whatever are your issues with any of the problems, or where you're unsecure, or you would like to have more information. We would like to have like this interaction to show any of the programs. This is the basic idea for the next week. You know, there are no stupid questions, there are just stupid answers. So we would, you know, like to give you the specific information that you need to prepare for the competitions. Yeah, this is basically it. We will send a checklist for setting up FairReplay, cutter, uploader. So we will have this checklist. And if you also need anything else about the programs, please write in the group if you forgot anything, and we will send it to you. And I will also send you the base for a JudoManager team competition, so you can also practice that before the team events in the April, at the end of the April. So.
And I think only I don't know how to read his name. Suprasida. Only he asked me for the FairReplay. So whoever needs, just let us know. We have the demo versions ready with the demo videos. Just go ahead.
Okay. So any question you can write to the group, or you can also write to personal telegrams, you know, if you would prefer that. So, okay, thank you for today, and
Thank you.
Wish you good luck.
Bye-bye.
yeah. And you can watch Pan America this weekend. Oh, from tomorrow. So yeah. So thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.